Okay. All right. So welcome everyone. Welcome to this webinar, this ATCEN series of webinars. Okay. The topic that we're going to be talking about and discussing with our distinguished panelists today would be the contact center COVID-19 experience so far. Right. So what have we learned? Are there any regrets? And also looking at some of the joys. Yeah. So those are the things we're going to be looking at. Okay. And as we go through this webinar, you notice that everybody has gone dark. Everybody has gone dark. And we would like to request for everybody to keep it that way until we get to section 3, where we do the questions. Yeah. Of course, the session will be broken up into 4 sessions. We're going to do introductions first, and then we'll go dive into the thoughts and questions to all of the panelists. And then in section 3, we're going to open up to questions. All right. So as far as questions goes, there are 2 ways the participants here can post your questions. The first is to chat and type it into chat. We have a team standing by. You will see the co-hosts in the chat list, in the participants list, right? That will be compiling and collecting all your questions, right? So when the time comes for the questions, we will either read out the question that you have, or the second option is for you to verbally ask the question. So I'm going to give you the option to unmute and ask your question verbally. Right, so it's really up to you. It's really up to you. Okay, and we will give you that option. Yeah, and then of course we will close off the webinar. Okay, and with section 4 with any wise words from all of our panelists. Okay, all right. Okay, so panelists, are we good with that?
Yep, great to go.
All right. Okay, Craig, I just unmuted you. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So what we're going to do is let me do a quick introduction first of who I am. All right. Most of the people here I know. Okay. The industry being the industry. Right. But my name is Ken Ng. Okay. I am the CEO and also the senior consultant. Yeah. For ATCEN. Right. For ATCEN. And what we do, of course, is we do training, consulting. And now we are an online business, okay, like everybody else. Right? We are offering webinars. All of our programs are offered via webinars, and we are also doing online coaching, right, from home. As you can tell, I'm in official garb. Yeah, I didn't want to wear my T-shirt and loose hanging T-shirt with my tattoos showing. So, but we'll keep it at that. All right. So as far as the seminars goes, the webinars go, okay, this is an approach. We're going to be hosting a series of webinars. All right, that's going to be going through the entire until we are off of this lockdown. All right, and that's who we are. That's who we are. Yeah, and with us, our panelists. Yeah, okay. We have Jeremy Lim, Lolitta Suffian. We've got Craig Mills from London. Okay, and of course Peter Fernandez. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it over to you to do a quick introduction of yourself and your company. All right, Jeremy, you want to go ahead and get started?
Okay, sure. Okay, first and foremost, thanks Ken and of course your team for organizing this webinar on this beautiful afternoon. So I hope this will definitely benefit the participants who wants to know more about how our contact center experienced during this MCO or movement control order. So I'm a director of ENVO BPO. I'm a lawyer by profession, having been called to the Malaysian and also UK bar as well. So I've been doing this for the past 5 years. This is a 2nd generation business, and ENVO BPO has been around for more than 10 years. We are actually a business process outsourcing provider, focusing more on customer support or telemarketing. So think of us as your customer support or marketing arm. We serve companies from all around the world, regardless of startups, listed companies, GLCs, and even government bodies. Yep.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, Jeremy Lim. And you are based in KL, is that right?
Yes, we have a couple of offices in KL, and of course we have various partners all around the world where we can work together.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. It's always good to have a lawyer on board in the panel, right? Okay, Lita, yes. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Lolitta Suffian. I'm the head of customer experience for BigPay. So I think most of you know that BigPay is one of the local prepaid MasterCard that you can have currently in Malaysia. We are launching soon in Singapore, hopefully by the end of April. We're part of the AirAsia group. I've been in the industry for the past 8 years now. I started off as an agent. Ken was actually one of my team leader, Master Sifu himself. Yeah, so I've evolved, working in BPO, also in-house. I was with Uber the past few years, and then I went on to Grab, and now BigPay. So what I will be sharing from my experience and how we handle the recent MCO is more on the human touch and the EQ part. Technology is great. Technology is amazing. You've got technology all around to support you for your staff to work at home. However, do not ever forget that they are still people.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for that, Lita. Actually, Lita was one of the, I was just communicating, and we are in this group of all the contact center managers and practitioners. And it was a buzz as we were going through the COVID-19, the shutdown, the lockdown, or sorry, MCO, not a lockdown. All right. And she was the one who kind of triggered and say, hey, you know what? We really need to get this information out as to what the contact centers are doing in this situation. And so you are sort of a catalyst for this webinar. Heads off. Thank you, Lita.
All right.
All right. Okay. Okay. Let's take it and direct it to Craig. Craig, off you go.
Yeah, good morning or good afternoon for you guys. I'm in just outside London, so adding a bit of a global flavour to the panel. Been in customer support contact centres for over 20 years, coming through the ranks as agent, so I've been there, done that. But in the last 2 years, been running 100% remote operations, people working out of their homes and things like that, long before the pandemic and the restrictions of movement that we're seeing today. So, I'm hoping to bring a lot of kind of feel around actually some of the benefits that can come from this, and the industry as a whole really needs to move forwards and get used to working from home, but make sure we've got the right practices in place. Really looking forward to Lolita's comments around the people side of things, because I agree with a lot of that. So together with Peter, the co-founder as well, we formed Sirius Support to look at kind of helping organizations do that, from either people and providing remote ready people that we know in the industry that are already used to working remotely, the technology to enable support operations to function effectively and productively from home, and then through to the methodologies and the consulting side of things as well.
Alrighty, great. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, and so Craig, how are things in London so far?
Well, the sun is just rising, so we're all good from a sun rising perspective. That happens every day, which is good. But from the outside world, things are changing rapidly. We are, as a country, we're not used to these lockdown situations. We've been in lockdown now for a couple of days. Schools finished last Friday. We're uncertain as a culture as to when the children will go back to school, which is causing a number of challenges around people working from home.
Yeah,
people working from home is not uncommon here in England, but contact centres at home is still very rare. And contact centres are incredibly busy. They've seen a huge spike in demand, yet they can't get their staff to the offices that they once did. So there's a lot of adapting to that, and how's that going to look and continue to deliver service.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Craig. Okay, and related to Craig, of course, working together will be this partner, Peter. All right, and Peter, off you go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time today. So my name is Peter. I've been in the industry for a while. I think it's 18, 20 years as well. And started off as an agent, moved through the ranks, and for the past couple of years, also been working 100% remote and learned a lot. It's a fascinating world, because I think, like with the current situation, everyone is forced to work from home and work remotely, but not many people are prepared for it. And it's a very interesting dynamic right now. I think one that hopefully the people and the participants of this panel will get a chance to learn more about, and maybe get some thoughts and ideas on how to help themselves.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you for that, Peter. All right, now what we're going to do is let's go ahead and frame, okay, what we're going to be discussing here and what we're going to be talking about. All right, I'm not going to talk about COVID-19 anymore. Everybody is very clear to what's happening, right, and how it's thrown the whole world into chaos. It's a nice kind of a chaos, isn't it? It's a balance. We're home more, but then our whole lives have changed, and a lot of changes have been happening. Now, of course, the contact center and also support centers, or BPOs, have not been spared, right? And that's why we were looking at what are some of the challenges, what are some of the things, what can we learn from this experience, okay, thus far, what are some of the best practices or some of the things that are being done, okay, that the panelists know of, okay, and also what really we should be preparing for, right? So we're going to tap into each of the panelists' personal experience. Right now, we're going to be looking into and asking, finding out from them what are their practices, and what, in retrospect, how could we have done better, right? If there were issues. Right now, what we want to do is we have a poll standing by before we go into the questions. All right. So all of the participants in the webinar right now, right, you are able to answer this poll by just clicking on the answer, on the response. Yeah. Okay. So here's the poll. All right. Go ahead and just click on your answer, and let's look at some of the results. Yes, panelists, you are allowed to vote here also. Okay, okay. That looks like quite a few in-house here. We have some outsources. Wow, operating as normal. That's pretty good. Yeah, 50% are operating as normal. Thank you. I hope you're whoever answered what preparation. I hope you're joking. All right, but thank you for that. Yeah, hey, it happens, isn't it? It happens. All right. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else? Another 10 seconds. Okay, all right, I'm gonna end the polling here. Okay, and let's see what we have. Yeah. So if you look at the results, all right, can everybody see the results? Okay, I can't share the results for some reason. Co-hosts, can you help with this?
Yeah, we can see them, Ken.
Oh, you can? All right, okay, good. All right, so if you look at the results, yeah, we've got about 62% who are in-house, okay? Hello, welcome. The outsources, we've got 38%, they're outsources. The current operations, operating as per normal, 46%, that's fantastic. All right, semi-operating, okay, that's about 48%. Not operating, wow, okay, you get a holiday, don't you? Right, and preparations and operations for business, for BCP. Yeah, above expectations, we had some that went well, met, okay, actually most everybody met. There were some below, and of course, what preparation? Okay, thank you for that. All right. Okay, so if you look at the poll right here, right? Actually, one of the first things I want to say for everyone is all of us here are the frontliners. All of us here are the contact center people. All right, I want to say hats off. Yeah, thank you for risking your life, and thank you for committing yourself to going to work. All right, and we really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much for everybody that's here. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you agree, or if you're okay with, if you feel yes, I deserve to be recognized. Okay, all right. So, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go through and look at some of the questions here. Okay, and what I want to do is I'm going to start it off with Jeremy. Yeah, I'm going to start off with Jeremy. All right, and Jeremy, if you look at everything that has happened, yeah, if you were to summarize the past few weeks, okay, how would you summarize it? Yeah, what has your experience been dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic? Right, how would you describe it?
Okay, this is actually a pandemic that most of us have not faced during our lifetime. And I pray, of course, there shouldn't be a second one. I mean, to sum it up, pardon my language, my team and I, we went through hell in the first 24 hours. The moment the MCO, or the movement control order, was announced. I would akin this to maybe perhaps driving on a highway and you get stopped by a roadblock. So for us, for myself, literally, I had to face the authorities. So despite the government issuing this memo saying that call center is part of essential services, we still, even myself, I need to go over to the police station to explain to the authorities what does it mean by essential services. So it was not easy at all, because they came over to our call center and they asked us not to operate the call center. And of course, my staff, my team members and clients all around the world have been jumping at us, asking for instant solutions. And we serve clients from various countries such as Philippines, Singapore, Indonesia, the States, Russia, and even Bulgaria. So I had to like one by one explain to the clients, you know, as a business owner, you have no choice but to talk to the management one by one, because they wouldn't want to listen to anyone else. So of course the phone calls have been, you know, buzzing. It seems that I'm a hotline to all of them. And so, yeah, that's right. So some of our clients do not even allow us to work from home due to data privacy concern. And of course, most of the call center, we have our own KPI to meet. And our clients did say, you know, if you would have to work from home, we fear that we can't hit the KPI and we will be penalized in terms of fees as well. So our traditional clients has actually ordered us to stop operation for some of the projects. So it was not easy getting my team to prepare to work from home. Most of the team members, they do not have Wi-Fi, personal desktop, laptop at home. So we had no choice. Within like 48 hours, I had to gather my team, had an emergency meeting. I need to call all my IT vendors and to make sure that only the reliable one are able to provide us with laptop. So there were even instances where some of the vendors say, okay, I could rent to you within 24 hours, but the price is 1,000 ringgit per laptop. You know? That's insane, you know, per laptop per month. So I managed to negotiate with some of the vendors. We managed to get this through. So in this, my team and I, we managed to activate the work from home policy within 48 hours. I have to really thank my team who put in, I would say, the first gear and frantically trying to meet the deadline as well as our client's requirement. All in all, we managed to get more than 50% of my workforce to work from home, especially with clients' permission. But unfortunately, close to about 50% are not able to work from home, and now we have to find ways on how we should, you know, assist them or explain to client. Hopefully this will change soon.
Yep, I think everybody is praying for the same thing, which is hopefully this will change. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for Jeremy. I'm sorry you have to go through that. I'm sorry you have to go through that, but that's how things are going right now, and that's what we really want to talk about, the pain points. Yeah, we'll go into it a little bit deeper as we move along. Right, Lita, what about you? If you were to encapsulate and talk about your past few weeks, how would you describe it? Yeah, and do share. I think you have a thing to say about the laptops at home.
Yeah. So being in fintech, we've always been agile. Technology-wise, for BigPay, in a way, we've always been ready. What the angle I want to talk about, especially for my teams, is on the human side of support. Okay, technology solution out there. As long as you've got the money, you've got the you've got the requirements. There are technology that can support you in your business for that. Okay, so my team would have friends or family members who are not required to continue to work from home. Okay, so before this happened, I need to prep them on the why. We as, you know, CX is essential towards our business livelihood. Why they, as opposed to their family members or friends, need to continue their work at home. Okay, because it's, you know, essential towards our business livelihood. Okay, so working from home may look like a relaxed activity for them. It's like, okay, I can just work from home in my pajamas, you know. Working from home, I mean, like, you know, whatever I want, not having a care in the world. I can eat cake or snacks anytime I want. It's all fun and dandy until the reality of isolation hits you. And I can see this starting from day 5 onwards. So what do I do to get my team focused is to have daily stand-ups with them. It's a daily Zoom video call with them, okay? So at the start of the day, we start about 9 a.m. So about 8:30, everyone is on call, video call Zoom with me. So about 15 minutes to 30 minutes of brief, depending on the topic at hand, and also to, in a way for me to interact with them, asking them, how are they? Okay, I look at their body language, look at their participation, you know, angle when we have the session. This week itself, I say one of my team members was actually struggling in keeping awake. He seems somewhat lost. I didn't call him out in front of the group during that time because he seems to be putting up on a brave front, like, hey, I'll soldier on kind of thing. So after my stand-up, I actually asked him privately, hey, let's get into Zoom call. And I asked him, are you okay? And he denied anything was wrong at all. But as I gently coaxed him to talk to me, he finally opened up and said he's having a huge migraine attack. His local clinic was closed because, you know, right now with the order. And for him to get an MC, it'll be quite hard. He also felt that since he is working from home, he should not take MC as he's, you know, he should just soldier on and work on. I told him to stop. I locked him out immediately from chats. I disabled his access except for, you know, Zoom access. I told him, I asked him first, do you have any medication? And he said, yes, he does. And I said, you need to rest, okay? Taking medication and working will not work for his recovery at all. His recovery is going to get longer because your body is not getting the, you know, the rest that you need. That's what the medication is for, okay? And then he was like almost in tears and he was like, I don't have any MC, miss. I really don't have MC. And this is where, as his supervisor, I told him that in the condition that we are in now, okay, I'm using the trust that I have in him, and I know that he's not well. I can bloody well see it, okay, and told him that he is excused from work. I'm not going to deduct his annual leave. I'm not going to deduct his off days. This is not even considered an MC. To me, I want you to rest, get better, and then come back and be the 110% superstar that you are to me, okay? I told him I'll take care of it with my HR. So I contacted my HR after that. I told them the situation. And I love my HR because they also instilled the same trust in me as a people manager to my agent and told me the same. Yeah, don't worry. Just write an email. Fine. Okay. So this is where I need to stress that you need to keep up with the normalcy of your day-to-day work life with your team. Okay. I had a virtual team lunch with my team this week. Okay.
I'm sorry?
A virtual team lunch. So we had lunch at 1 o'clock. All right. So everyone logged off chats and emails during that time. We had another team to back us up. Okay. So we all prep our own food. All right. And then we all went to Zoom and start showing off our cooking. Okay. Or the lack of it. I only had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but hey, I could do. And, you know, and then we talk about recipes. Just don't talk about work.
Right. Yeah.
We'll go out together for lunches. That's the session that we had, but it was just virtual. Okay?
Sounds like, Lita, if you don't mind me interrupting, sounds like your main challenge when this happened, when the lockdown happened or when COVID-19 hit, right, was the lack of human interaction that you have in terms of managing the people, right? Okay. And so that was the main challenge that you had. Yeah. Were there any other challenges? Were there any challenges from these past few weeks?
No, because technology-wise, as I said, BigPay is on point. Everything was just, you know, business as usual for us. It's just making sure that my team and everyone else within the company, okay, is able to work as per normal and also ensuring that their mental state is also on point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, a little presentation that I have. Now, one of my
Lita, I'm gonna hold you for a second. Share that later. Share that later. Okay.
No
I'm gonna go to Craig first. But before that, you had a little issue with the little anecdote, a little story about computers and working from home with computers and the staff not having computers. Can you share a little bit? Or maybe Jeremy can learn from that or pick up from that.
Okay, so even in BigPay, we didn't have enough laptops, but we have desktops. All you have to do is make sure that the desktops has VPN connection, which is security encrypted, everything. Okay, we actually transported some of our desktops to about a few of our staffs internally, and they brought it home. Okay, and then when our vendor, I think it was this week, was able to send us the laptops that we ordered anyway.
Wow.
able then to deploy it back and just take away back the desktop. I can do Grab, Lala Move, Bunko's It are amazing. They're your best friends right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. All right, now let's go ahead and move to Craig. So Craig, how has the last few weeks been for you?
Yeah, and I'll come to that in a moment, but I just wanted to pick up on Lolita's key point. The people element of this is critical, and I don't think it can be business as usual. I think it has to be above and beyond. I think managers have to take a step up and lead more. The manager role has to evolve in this to take greater care. It's not just about the KPIs. It is about that regular check-in and contact. I would do daily with my directs. I've done that for the last couple of years in working remote. A daily check-in, and even if it's 10, 15 minutes, how you doing? That manager role has to shift in this time. But anyway, on to me and the impact. So my biggest customer right now with Sirius is actually based in Washington DC. So again, kind of another time zone out as well. But the impact of this is global. We've been working with them for the last 8 months. We've built an entirely remote customer support team, and so we've all been working from home. We're in countries across the rest of the world, and they've seen huge benefits because of that. But at this time, as they've gone through this change and they've had to close down their offices and other functions, that customer experience piece has been completely uninterrupted. Huge disruption to their business and the business model and what they do. The call volumes have spiked significantly as customers of that organization have called in with concerns or changes and other things across the US, particularly as the US have now started to go into lockdown and restricted movement. But that customer experience has been able to cope with that. We've had to work extra hours and other things like that to deal with the volume, but there's been zero interruption to service because we were already working remote. The organization took a lot of time to get used to this idea that we were 100% remote. They were used to seeing and touching their customer service team in the office, and the change that we made of making that remote was disruptive to that organization at the time, but it's transformational now in terms of them having no drop of service and people being ready. And for me, what I believe the industry has got to evolve from this, and I think it will, because people have worked from home a little bit more, and so they're going to be used to it. But the restrictions of talent being close to your office, geographically constrained around a particular city or town or commuting distance in, it really has to evolve and change. That there's talent around the world. I'm leading a customer service team for a company that is wholly based in the US, out of Washington DC. But that doesn't matter. The technology is there. The talent exists around the world to be able to provide exceptional customer service for them. And so we've got to evolve with that. Now, to pick up on some of Jeremy and Lolita's points earlier, because we were already remote ready, the team already worked from home or worked from other spaces. They had the equipment, they had the desktops, they had the technology in place. We had the processes, we had the daily check-ins. We knew the team, we knew their environment. And so we just we did carry on as usual, just with a higher volume of calls.
All right, brilliant. Thanks for that, Craig. Now, just a little something I want to touch on that you mentioned about customer experience with your American client, right? And you were saying that it was business as usual, not business as usual, but business unusual, right? Mm-hmm. And but you mentioned the customer experience did not change, or it did not falter, right? So did that mean you had to do an impromptu and abrupt change of the structure of your customer experience framework? Right. What do you feel were some of the areas that were important to realize, given this kind of event? Yeah. How do you change, and what were the important factors of customer experience that you felt was important?
Cool. So there are large events that they run. They're a member organization, so heavy into kind of providing services for their members and events for their members. And so the biggest issue for us was the changing dynamics in the environment. The government were making changes both nationally and locally around the federal governments, that we were having to keep up with that quite quickly and get that information to the agents. Now, of the team, I only have 2 agents in the US. The rest are all outside of the US, South America, Europe, Africa, and in Asia. So we were having to daily make sure that those guys were briefed on what had happened overnight in the US.
Wow.
What was the topical news that they needed to make sure they had? What were then our policy changes as an organization that we're going to adapt to that? You know, we've been trying to, their events is a major revenue stream for the organization. And so where possible, we've been trying to keep those events, whole and intact. And some of the, their biggest event is in June. So still several months away. And so we've been trying to kind of hold that and intact as, it's still going to go ahead. We're not going to make any changes. There's no cancellation policies, outside of the normal. But that's clearly changed and evolved. And as the lockdown started to happen in the state that the event's going to happen, we've clearly had to change. But it's been making sure the agents have got, the right information for that. And, I'm sure a lot of people have, daily stand-ups or whatever in their offices to communicate things on whiteboards or screens, whatever. But for us, we already had a process in place where daily the agents came in and the first 5 minutes of their day was spent going through an update on changes. And that might be, trivial changes to process or some new information or a bit of fun or, pictures of the other team members of what they did over the weekend. We had that mechanism in place already. But because of this, that has very much changed to here are the updates from the US government overnight. This is what we now need to change and evolve.
Yeah, great. That's great. Thank you. When you talk about the stand-ups and you talk about your meetings and you talk about your sharings, I'd like all of you to, for those who are already online, who are already doing remote right now, okay, for the benefit of the operations that are not in remote, okay, we'll touch on this later. Do share what are some of the fundamentals of working remotely or having agents work remotely. Yeah, we'll cover this later. Okay, we'll come back to it. I just want to give you a heads up. Okay, all right, Peter. I know your introduction has been a bit delayed. All right, how has the last few weeks been for you, buddy?
Very good, actually. In honesty, the only thing is that I see fewer cars on the road from my window. That's about it. I've been working remotely for a couple of years now, and so my day-to-day work hasn't changed. Right. I think what has changed is the duty of care we have to our agents and to our fellow managers, etc. The flexibility we have to give to certain people who are affected in certain areas or certain ways. For example, some of my team members had to shift locations in the Philippines. I've got a couple of people there who had to move because their current place, the infrastructure wasn't good enough with the lockdown for them to be able to work there long term. So they had to find alternate accommodations. Took them a day. But because of the fact that we work fully remote and the day is structured around, so they're not front office people, so they're not structured around having to be at a fixed time. We were able to be flexible. They just needed to make the 40 hours anytime during the week. And so they took a couple of days off, made the rest of the hours up the other days if they wanted to or if they could. And they were able to then adjust to the situations as they face them.
I think that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Sorry for interrupting. Yeah, but since we're going into it, why don't you lead us off as to some of the tips as for remote workers or for remote agents? What are some of the things that we can do? All right, and I kind of structure it for us as to if I were to start this off, what are the first few things that I need to consider? Right, what are the first things that I need to look at in order to put this in place? Yeah, including the technology. Just share a little bit about technology, the considerations we need to take into for the technology to be put into place. All right. Now, before you respond, I got a really good personal message from the president of CCAM, Raymond from Daythree. All right. Thank you, Raymond. Raymond's saying thank you, everybody, for joining this and to share information with the industry. All right. Absolutely. Raymond, you're next. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Peter. Okay. How do we get started? Where do we get started? What do we do? So
I think the technology is not as much of a limiting factor as it used to be. A lot of companies which are now moving to remote because they've been forced to are using VPNs and stuff like that, which are less secure an option than they would like generally, right? It puts a lot of strain on your own network. So what we tend to do is we use as our backbone AWS, but essentially what happens is because AWS servers for certain services are already ready for data protection and
Right.
privacy laws in many countries. It's a matter of basically accessing microservices that you need at a particular point in time for a particular service, and making sure that your entire process line follows the right path, that it doesn't deviate out of any particular norms.
Right.
So for our remote agents, etc., we, in order to maintain data protection for a lot of our customers who are in the US, in the EU, we have a tool which actually disables screenshots and certain activities, and highlights downloads of personally identifiable information.
Right.
And so this basically removes the elements of risk from certain scenarios, right? And we hire good people. We hire people who are professional. We pay them pretty well. You know, they act professionally. We've never had an issue with any of those so far. But the system helps us.
You pay them pretty well. I think everybody wants to know that about that point. Yeah. Pay well to work in your pajamas. Are you sure?
Well, we don't really work in pajamas. We dress pretty all right, you know, most of the time. Nobody works, you know, in singlets or sleeves. So we're fine. But I think the technology aspects are not as much of a concern. The harder thing, in honesty, is getting the right methodology and tools to support you, right? You need your processes to be able to support what you need. What Lita, Jeremy, Craig, and myself have experienced, of course, is very true in that the human interaction portions of being in an office are not there anymore.
Yeah.
You don't meet up at the water cooler. You don't go down for a little break. You know, you don't meet up for lunch. So you have to make up for that in other ways, right? And I think you need, even though remote offers tons of flexibility, you do need a very good rigor and structure around what you do and why you do it. And you need a good understanding of what drives different things. For us, for example, with my team, we have daily and weekly stand-ups. The weekly ones tend to be a bit longer. We go through more things in detail of an hour and a half, depending how it stretches. Excuse me. And the daily touch points with the individual agents and with my team managers, etc., 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes if there's more to discuss. But we do it every day without fail. And in between that, there's multiple touch points here and there. We use chat programs like Skype, Slack. We have Mattermost as well, which we use, and a couple of other. We have WhatsApp group as well. And so we communicate and we interact on different levels at different times. So when it's time to work, and we work in blocks of work generally, you don't see any interruptions. But after that, in between, then you see a lot of chatter, and then there's stuff that people talk about that other people respond to later. I think that's another aspect of remote working which needs to be considered. It's not always synchronous, because you don't see someone, you can't walk up to someone and just tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, you know, let's have a quick meeting. I need to talk to you about this. So asynchronous work requires a degree of coordination and discipline. You need to be able to be disciplined enough not to be distracted by intermittent requests for other things, so that you can focus on your work. And I think that's the beauty of what we've experienced with fully remote work with a good methodology, is that you actually get more productive, much more productive than you could be in an office, and still have a high degree of interaction. My team, you know, we during our weekly stand-ups, we talk about all kinds of stuff. We don't really talk about work, except for the second half of it. So quite a big portion is designed along quizzes, games, finding out what everyone did, what 3 things about them that nobody else knows in the team. We always have new people joining and people moving on to other teams. So we talk about what we've learned, what it's like in different countries. There's just so much you can do around it, but you do need to build that structure yourself and find what works for you within that space. So I think, yes, technology hurdles are there, of course, and it is of concern, but it's less of a concern than it ever used to be, especially nowadays. So many people have their own computers, their own laptops. You know, I'm using my desktop, which I use for gaming whenever I can, which is very rarely. It works fine.
So is that your gaming headset, or is that your work headset?
This is actually my wife's headset, because my normal headset broke. I can't charge it anymore. So I'm using my wife's headset and my daughter's mic.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, equipment.
But you should have a backup. That's another thing. You know, I've created a checklist for my team, what you need in order to make sure that you can work successfully, right? And so a lot of my team, I don't have a backup connection besides my phone, but all of my team have backup connections of their own volition, right? They make sure that they have something. We always have spare headsets, a wired headset if we need. All of us have desktop or laptop, multiple screens, because that aids in productivity. So there's a few different things that help you when you work remotely. I think one of the key things, and that's what I think I discussed this with a few people, is really hard in the current situation is I personally have a corner of my living room, which is marked out as my office. And I've been sitting here in the same spot for 2 years, right? But not everyone has that luxury. And even my daughter has her classes, e-learning, sitting over there in the corner. And it is disruptive at times, right? So how do you work around that? And I think that's the challenge many people are facing. It's very difficult when you've got your whole family around you, you've got different people doing different things at the same time as you're trying to work.
Right.
So that's where I suppose working in blocks of time and setting aside clear schedules and structure helps, but it definitely is a challenge. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah. Quick tip. Best headphone or your go-to headphone and mic set. Or
Logitech H800, that's my favorite. I bought 3 of those over the past 10 years.
Hey, Pete, I got another tip for you. Lazada sale still ongoing.
Actually, yes, I'm gonna order one to replace my poor headset. Oh,
dude, today's the last day, dude.
Oh, is it really? Okay. Logitech H800, is that a Bluetooth one?
H800. It's Bluetooth. It's also got a little dongle, so I can connect it to anything I need.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks for that, Pete. Okay. Now, we've actually prepared quite a few questions. All right. But I see some pretty good questions on the chat. Yeah. The panelists, are you all okay if we go to some of the questions? Yeah. Are we all right?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Good. I think there was one question here, because since we're talking about remote and we're talking about motivating the people, getting them excited, continuously engaging them, gamifying them. We are running webinars. Yeah, we're running webinars for our certified programs, for our contact center programs. And this is my experience, right? When we're running the webinars, okay, and I have my participants there, 20, 25, right? And as you will see the videos go off, right, as we move on throughout the hour or the 2, right? And so it's quite challenging. Yeah? And I want to know from a work perspective, now we can motivate them, yes, but how do you think we can performance manage them? Yeah, in terms of the discipline that you talked about there, Peter, right? You talked about the discipline of somebody being in their corner, right, in their marked out office, okay, to be there, to do what is required, to respond, when you're pinged, right, to answer the call when you're called, right? So how do we manage that? Yeah, how do we manage that? So Jeremy, let me ask you from a legal perspective, being a lawyer, right? Are there any issues with that? What issues do you see from working from home? Yeah, from a remote, as a remote agent perspective.
I think the main issue will be more on the privacy data infringement policy. So I think most of our concern would be leakages of data. So I noticed there's a couple of queries there, including the latest one by Corey Quack, and even Lim En. I'm able to answer some of your questions. I'm not so sure, should I go straight to it?
I don't know, panelists, are you all okay? Should we? Yeah, I think it's just more engaging, because there are quite a few questions coming in.
So how do I manage? So I give you an example of one of my clients. So we are actually helping one of the Russian clients to take care of their customer support. So of course, service level is utmost important. Why? Because our fees also depending on that. If there is any drop in service level, we will be penalized. So from our angle, the first thing we need to do is sign an agreement with each and every agent in terms of privacy data to ensure there's no leakages, and we make it really strict that the company will not hesitate to even bring action if there's any infringement or whatsoever. So this will also some sort of give confidence to the client, and at the same time we can instill this type of discipline among our team members. So it has been really not easy to get this done within like 48 hours. So we have like a team of them who've been so used to working in office, and now they have to work from home and being disciplined at the same time. So I do have my team members who have created a WhatsApp group. So every hour we need to make sure that the service level is met. So for instance, if the service level is 90%, the moment once we notice there's a drop like 89%, so my team leader will immediately be able to monitor the agent, like, we ask the team, hey, what is going on? Why is the service level dropping?
Right.
So thankfully, due to technology, like what Lolitta mentioned, and also the fact that this is really the right time to make full use of the technology. So often or not, we have this CRM or even the telephony system, but we will only maybe use 60 or 70% of function. So it's time to explore what we can do with this type of system in order for us to monitor each of the service level of agent. So let's take, for example, if we have like 30 agents and you notice that out of 30 agents, there's about maybe a handful of them, 5 agents, when they work from home, when they work in the office, they are able to maybe answer 50 calls per day, for instance. But when they work from home, you can see there's the level is really, the level is dropping from 50 calls to 30 calls.
Right, the productivity would drop,
yeah, productivity drop for sure. So we need to zoom into that agent and not to, in a way, demotivate them. We say, hey, what's going on? Let's have a quick chat, maybe a 15 minutes break. So the supervisor or even us, we can talk to the team and see what is going on. So this is really the right time to, in a way, be humane, I would say, to reach out to them and talk to them, like instead of being an employer-employee, but more of friends. We can talk as a friend, even if there's any private issue that you're facing. For example, my wife is shouting at me, so I can't concentrate. There are instances, where it is really normal. So what we can do, okay, maybe
so you do. So Jeremy, you do marriage counseling too?
I do have a lot of inquiries on that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of learning point for the past 2 weeks, which is really good for all of us. Yeah.
Ken, if I may just kind of add to Jeremy's point there, I think it's really, really clear to set very clear expectations, not only with your customers on service levels and what you're going to achieve, and it sounds like there's some good stuff in your contracts, but equally set that with the team and set really clear expectations on the output that's expected. And then almost provide a level of trust to them that as long as they manage that level of output, you've got some freedom to work within that. I found that works hugely well. Working from home is different. I've got a wall in front of me, and sitting here staring at a wall for too long is quite tedious. But I come and work in chunks of time, and that works well for me as a manager. It works less well as an agent. But coming and doing a chunk of time, working in a block, getting a fixed output done, and then going and taking a break, doing something different. The same is true with agents. Agents can't work for the length of time that they're used to working in an office without a break. So give them some structure. Allow them to work for an hour or 2 hours, and answer as many calls as you need them to answer, but set clear expectations within that time frame, and then give them a break. We can't expect people to still work the same kind of 9 to 5 type shifts that they were used to. That's probably got to stretch a little bit longer, but with bigger breaks in the middle to take care of discussions with the wife or helping with the kids. Certainly, one of the challenges for me this week has been my kids have been at home, and so whilst I've been used to working remotely for 2 years, actually having my kids at home and my kids wanting help with their schoolwork or other things has meant that I've had to had the discipline where I'm locked away for an hour. I'm just going to work, and I have a physical headset, and that means I'm on a call. And there's been times this week where I've been on very silent calls just to get some work done, and I haven't actually been on a call, but the visibility of me having a headset on means that nobody disturbs me. But it's blocking that out and having very clear expectations on output.
Right. Okay. Well, actually, talking to you kind of reminds me of that BBC video where the kid crawls in. I know exactly what you're talking about. I had to kick my kid out. He's been playing with his Duplos here, and he's telling stories. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you got to go to another room, right? You can't do it here. All right. Now, but you did mention that the service levels and the client expectations have to be set. All right. Now, service levels aside, now in terms of your individual KPIs, do you see that you need to relax the KPIs a little bit more because they're working remotely?
No, not at all. I think, I almost in my experience, I think it goes up. If you've got people that are actually, what we define as remote ready, they're used to working remote. They've got a little corner that they can work in. That they're productive in that way. Actually, the productivity goes up. You haven't got the stress of a commute. You haven't got all of those other stresses around your life. But you've got to be flexible. And I've got some great examples of people where, we've had to kind of almost tailor some shifts and flexibility around some of those things. We don't have fixed shifts. We've got to cover the work, and the volume of work for our client has to be handled, no questions, because we've got SLAs with them and things like that. But actually the manpower management within that is up to us as managers to be flexible with. And so, one individual we have in the team is severely disabled. He can't go out and work in a normal job because he can't get to a desk in an office without a significant amount of help. But he is phenomenal on the phone with customers, does a great job. But he has asked and did it up front that he needs a 2-hour break middle of the day for some physio, and physio comes into his house. He doesn't leave his house for it, but he needs that 2-hour break, and that wouldn't fit in a traditional kind of you have an hour for lunch model. But he's phenomenal, and so actually we just go, yeah, fine, manage your time. We know he takes a 2-hour lunch break in the middle of his day. But other people, in Eastern Europe, and then, it's their evening and they're covering that shift.
Right.
So it's that flexibility as a management team to say, okay, these people, need some time off, or, actually this person works best in, 1 hour on, 1 hour off, 1 hour on, 1 hour off, because that fits around looking after kids or, other commitments that they might have. But it's output driven, not, time at your keyboard driven.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Thank you for that sharing. The difference in culture, is I think the main indicator here. All right, maybe Pete can share a little bit. Yeah, let me just go to Pete very quickly. Lita, get your slides ready. We're going to go to that shortly. All right, Pete. Now you are the Malaysian counterpart, for Craig and for Sirius. Okay, so I'd like to know, Pete. Right now, working from home, and the package that they receive, the salary package that they receive, right? From a Malaysian perspective, since most of our participants here are Malaysians, what do you find in terms of a package? Are people willing to accept even less because they get to work from home? Do they see that as an advantage, or do you have to pay them more, and expect that same kind of discipline from them? What's your experience like?
Well, to be honest, I don't have any other. I have one Malaysian team member, but not many others. Partly because we haven't had that many roles yet for people to join in, but also because not many people have applied. Not open that many roles, so not many people have applied. Now, I don't think the package is as much of an issue because the way we operate, right? We allow companies to divest of CapEx, infrastructure, facilities, things like that, and invest in their people. So whatever they save, they can actually throw into slightly higher salaries or even much higher salaries, depending on the country and project, etc.
Right.
And that goes towards hiring better quality people around the world, regardless. So we take the best talent we can find, regardless, as long as they're willing to work and learn. Now, being a remote worker, what Jeremy was saying about people, and I think there were a couple of other questions about how do you manage the people? How do you, and you can were mentioning performance management. How do you know what they're doing? How do you make sure they do their work? I think having the methodology of making sure you have a very structured methodology helps, but also having a tool, the right tool, which gives you the right type of information about people as remote workers helps tremendously as well. So what we found is with our tool, we have quite a bit of visibility into what they do and how they do it, right? And that allows us to manage them even better than if we were in an office and looking over the shoulder, actually, because we can go back through historical records and it's part of our methodology for the managers.
What's a good tool? First, 1 or 2 names that pop up. What are some good tools?
I can't plug our own tool, but we have our own tool basically that we
hang on.
we license.
All right, okay. Panelists, are we okay if Pete wants to plug his own tool? Are we okay with that? Yeah. All right.
We're okay with it, Pete. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, our Sirius remote work application does a few things. So there's a client side and then there's the backend side. And the backend side allows the management interface to exist and operate. And what we do is we capture all the activities that the agent does down to intensity and focus, which are defined as the amount of work a person does per unit time and how many, well, what application you're using. So if you're very focused on your work and doing one thing for 30 minutes, you know, that's full focus. And it's not easy. People get distracted. It's natural. You answer emails and all that. So we need to shift the mindset and the work style to be focused on single activities at a point in time. The agents are doing casework or calls, they just do that and nothing else, right? They don't do research, etc. Though it's necessary if you're maybe L2 or L3 support, that it's slightly different picture. But what you want to do then is use that data to help coach. You find your best performers and you learn best practices from them about how they keep the intensity up, how they keep the focus fixed. You see what applications they use and how they use it. You know, we take screenshots randomly on and off, depending on the agent's level. The newer we take more so we can coach them more.
So you remotely take screenshots?
Yes. The system does it automatically and stores
what about the CCTV that you install in the room?
We don't install CCTV. We actually use we as a, it's not a security measure, but what we want to do is teach people how to stay focused, right? So we actually do screen caps of the webcam at random intervals as well. And it's not to make sure that people are sitting down and doing their work, but it's to make sure that they're not doing nonsense in the meantime, you know?
And it helps with the coaching perspective. And to Lolita's point around the employee welfare, actually, have they got a lot of distractions around them, and that's why their performance is dropping. And if you've got that screen capture, you can just talk to them about it. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. And say, look,
use it as a coaching point, right? You use it
100% correct. Yeah.
Help them up. I totally agree.
Absolutely. It's how you use the tool and what methodology you have behind it.
Looks like
it took
if
us,
you use those screenshots and you go to your agent and say, hey, look, 11:21, your head. 11:25, your head was at the back. How you use it.
Well, some organizations actually do that. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. I think that's the wrong focus.
So
you're telling me, tool in the right way.
You're telling me your camera that you install actually takes a pixel or the pixelates their face. If they turn their head, you can actually know. But that's quality monitoring at the extreme.
No, we don't do that because there's no need to do so. For example, I bend down and take a tissue paper and wipe my spectacles every once in a while. It doesn't matter, right? What the important thing is that you deliver on your expectations. You deliver good results. Yeah, and the tool helps us do that and coach to that.
Looks like one of the businesses I'm going to is electrical fencing around your workplace. Yeah. Okay. So nobody comes in and disturbs you.
Keep the kids out.
Like an option. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay,
I'll be customer number one on that, Ken.
Okay, it's just a mild voltage, like a 9 volt. Yeah, okay, so no big deal. All right, okay, now, but we're going to keep covering and talking about the employee welfare and also managing the remote workers, because what we're talking about here, right? And I think the best person or one of the better persons we can talk to is Lita, right? And Lita is always, she's my idol when it comes to, staff engagement and employee experience, all right? And what I want to do is let's go ahead and hear from Lita. Right, and Lita is going to share a little something that she does in terms of motivating. Now, Lita, if you don't mind, share what you do to motivate and also in terms of performance management. From a Malaysian perspective, Malaysian employers and contact center managers are paranoid, right? Where staff will be lazy, staff will run away, staff will go do this, staff will go do that. They must be seated down. All right, so how do we change that perspective? How do we change that perspective? Okay, all right, all yours.
Okay. So trust needs to be there, all right? Just like what Pete and Craig says, you have all these wonderful tools. It churns out stats for you daily, right? It's how you use it, how positive you are in using those tools. Like in my daily stand-ups, okay, I would have yesterday's stats printed out, okay, and then show it to everyone during Zoom. But I use it as I celebrate the top 5. I was like, oh my God, Eugene, that's what I'm talking about. Pump them up. Now, whoever's on the bottom 10 or 20, I don't address it there. I will address it privately, okay? You celebrate greatness. You don't bring down someone when they're down in front of everyone else. I am a great believer of that. No. Okay, so that's how you do performance management. All right, daily stats up there is how you deliver those daily stats to them, you know, to celebrate their achievement, not to use it, say, hey, I'm watching you, you better watch. So that's that. Another thing, going back to what I was talking on earlier on about, you know, the mental state, about isolation, pumping them up. Like one of my workmates, his birthday was this week. Having your birthday during COVID sucks. Sucks. Like you can't go out to celebrate, you can't over and stuff. So in the back end, this is what I did. Okay, I'm gonna share it to you guys, a little presentation of what I do to pump up my team. So this is a hot commodity right now, which is the toilet. That is a cake, people. That is a cake. All right. I actually got this delivered by Lala Move. All right. And look at that smile. Okay. Alex is actually Brazilian. He is one of our product designers. He's all alone in Malaysia. No wife. He only has plants. Look at that decaying plant, almost dying. He's been starting to talk to it. And it was like, and then he was telling me, oh, my birthday's coming, so it sucks. It sucks. And I sent him that cake, and we got everyone to log in Zoom while he put a candle on that cake, and we sang to him happy birthday.
Oh.
Made his day. Okay. And things like this is not expensive. Okay, so I'm an avid shopaholic. Okay, and this is how I support the local industry too. Moshi Cakes is a home baker. Okay, and that small little mini cake, which is orange velvet and beautiful, according to Alex, only costs us 50 ringgit, and we split it among each other. It was only about what, about 5 ringgit each person, which is not bad. And this is another thing I did. This is something I did for my personal team. I actually found a local seamstress, and she did cloth mask, which is eco-friendly. So I got her to actually sew individual masks for my team members as a motivation for them to, you know, stay safe, stay home. And they were so happy. Little things like this matters, okay? There's loads of delivery services out there. There's loads of businesses who are impacted because of the situation right now. So to me, I'm doing my part in supporting both the local businesses and also supporting my team. So little things like this. Yeah.
All right, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Thanks for that sharing. Yeah, I was telling Lita when she showed me the cake. You know, I told him you needed a little bit of chocolate and a strawberry on the side, on the outside.
No.
Okay, performance management. How do you view that? You know, is there is there anything else that you do, right, to ensure that productivity is there, occupancy is there? You know, so what do you do?
There is, as I said, the daily stats, daily stand-ups. Okay. There will be 1 or 2 person that, you know, doesn't achieve it. Listen to them out, okay? And if you have to put someone on PIP, you have to put someone on PIP.
When you say daily stats, Lita, what are some of the sample stats that you look at?
Okay, so I look into productivity and also quality. I actually stress more on quality because we're about 90% on chats. And with chats, people can just screenshot if you say something wrong, put it onto Facebook, you know, put it on the internet, put it on the web, and it just goes viral. Oh, BigPay did this, you know, the customer service did this. So quality information is very, 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 very important. I stress on that a lot, okay? And frankly speaking, it's leadership by example. If you don't empathize and, you know, treat your staff as they want to be treated, they won't do the same for your customers. Okay, it's a domino effect.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you for that, Lita. Now, another area that we really want to talk about, this is one of the issues that that I've counted. Yeah, a lot of the contact center managers, a lot of operations have already contacted me and requested this assistance. All right. Now, how do you get and motivate your people to want to come to work? Now, for those who don't have a remote operation, still require their staff to come to operations, come to the office. How do we get them to overcome or to increase their commitment level for them to want to come to work and put their life at risk, given that there's a pandemic there, right? So, Jeremy, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, okay, to answer some of the questions, especially from the banking industry, it's close to impossible to work from home, given the Bank Negara guideline, especially when they take data privacy really seriously. So we do have staff who not work from home, but work in work in a bank. So of course, bank, they have a very strict policy, maybe on a 50%, instead of like having 100 staff to come to work, perhaps only 50%. So including my team members. So what we can do is that, of course, to provide them the essential like mask, hand sanitizer, and also if necessary, hardship allowance as well. So that could, of course, some sort like and give them motivation to go to work. Of course, during times like this, we need to have like a daily motivation, like what Lolitta mentioned. We can have a quick chat together, maybe of course staying like 1 meter apart, so we can saying, hey, let's cheer up, cheer each other up. Everybody is down, but life still need to go on. We need to meet our KPI. So it's more about doing things that are unusual, because at the end of the day, we all know that this is an environment where a lot of us have not experienced. So doing the unusual stuff, like talking to them in a different manner, being really concerned about their well-being, perhaps on a daily basis. Hey, team A, how is it going on for this day, for this 2 days that you're working in office? How's everything? So what Lolitta did is also great, giving birthday cake for staff who is celebrating a birthday. So this is these are some of the gesture that would definitely motivate the team.
Yep, absolutely. Now, anybody else has any thoughts on this? How do you get your team to come to work, given there's a pandemic, right? What do you see? What do you see? Any practices that you've seen out there that has been successful? Anyone?
I know Raymond from Daythree is actually part of this. He's actually we actually outsource part of our CE to Daythree, and his support to BigPay has been tremendous. And his agents, our Daythree agents, are still traveling to work to go to both our sites. Maybe he can give his input, because what the whole Daythree team did is amazing.
Right. Okay. Well, we don't have him here. I think he stepped out.
I thought he was online. Sorry.
I don't know. Is he here? Raymond, are you here? No, Daythree has locked out. Yeah, Daythree has locked out. Okay. All right.
Okay,
but
so
can you
I
share with us?
What he did. Yeah, sure. Okay, so we're fintech, right? So part of it is data security, flowing out and everything like that. So we've got 2 sites with Daythree, which is whitelisted. So what Daythree did was, and I really applaud Raymond for doing this, he actually prepared letters, okay? You know how we get roadblocks by the army and also by the police, going on right now? He actually made sure that he has got the authorities, I'm not quite sure which authorities, but he got actually official letters for the agents to travel, okay? And since the volume is actually also goes down, we actually made the agents to come up on a wider 24-hour support, so that, because MRT has shut down, right? So people who can't travel during after 5 p.m., then they can come in during the times where MRT is operational, okay?
Right.
Make sure that they all have hand sanitizers, just like how Jeremy did. Face masks, hand sanitizers. When they come into the office, they wash up first before they come into the center. He made sure lunch are delivered for the agents. They had a pizza party yesterday, which they put onto Zoom. It's like, hey, Lita, since you had your virtual lunch, we're having a virtual lunch too. So yeah, he does a lot, okay? And he actually, and there are parents, okay, who are concerned that their kids, are traveling for work. So these parents, his team talked to me, and I'm saying, hey, I'm a mom too. I would be worried too. So looking at the reduction of volume, I will tell them, hey, no problem, stay home, okay? Don't come to it. Be safe. Just don't go running around the mall or whatever. Just be safe, okay? And the internal team, which is my team, and the rest of our agents at Daythree will be able to work together and just cover up the remaining volume that we need to take. So we have got about, I think about 4 agents that's on, because they're in a high risk area, like I think Cheras is one of them. So it's a total lockdown for them, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I think one of the main things that I think we can surmise when it comes to encouraging your people to go, and this is what I've been telling my clients and the people that we work with. All right. I think the element of trust and also the element of care that we do care for you, and it must go through. It must show that you do care for them. You must show that that we are relying on you, so it increases their commitment level, and that's one of the things that we've always been working on. And it goes back to the human connection that you have and the people connection that you have with them. All right, now that's some of the things that we do, yeah, to make sure that they are healthy, to make sure that they are well, to find out. I'm even for us, for example, in ATCEN, we have had some cases which were second, maybe third level contacts. Yeah, okay, we constantly check to see if everything's okay. Are you all right? All right, we look at maybe sending meds to them if possible. All right, so those are the things that we're looking at, and to get them to come right now is really that trust and that commitment that you have, that relationship that you have with them. Right? Do I feel that the company cares for me? And that's what you need to look at. Yeah, what you look at. All right, now the very interesting question here, which is the element of trust. Yeah, let me just go back to Craig. All right, and Craig, right, the question here was in terms of monitoring. We monitor so many elements here, okay, yet we talk about trusting them. Now, isn't that counterproductive? Because as you lay down a lot of measurements, okay, doesn't that indicate I don't trust you? Because how do you go around that? How do you meander yourself through that?
Yeah, so for me, I think there's 2 elements. There's the technology to allow you to do a lot of that monitoring, but there's the culture, that what you do with that data. And for me, yeah, I like that monitoring because it gives me a lot of insight as to what people are doing and how they're working. But I like to then use that from a productivity perspective. And I look at it myself, all of the tools and technologies that we put our own teams through, I have on my own system. It goes through, it captures screenshots of me, it takes web scans of me. And that's part of the culture of the company that I'm under these same tools. And so I use it for my own productivity. And one of the huge things I found that when I was on video calls, I was constantly switching to my email, and the tool showed me that. It was highlighting that I wasn't staying focused. And so now I deliberately have my email behind this screen that my webcam is on. I've got other screens, but my email is behind here, so I can't see it. I can't see if somebody's emailed me, and so I'm present in the video call. And so it's all about that productivity, and that's how we stress the tool is as we're talking with people is actually the top performers in the team, are they doing something different productivity wise than the people at the bottom of the team? It might not be an individual's performance problem. It might just be that how they were trained, how are they using the systems? Has the person at the top found a shortcut on how to run a process or how to find information, that if we knew how that was, we could share that with the rest of the team as a best practice and bring everybody's performance up. So you've got to look at it as a performance productivity thing rather than a spyware monitoring application. And if you can get people's buy-in to that, it's a game changer. And people can then start to look at, how do I improve my own performance? What am I spending my time on? And how do I get it better? But equally, as a manager, you've then got to look at the process. We a good example on this customer in Washington, as we first rolled out this tool. I went back to the leaders of the organization that we're providing the outsourced services to. And I said, look, every time we go through and do your process on this, we're having to touch 3 different systems to get some information. It's completely crazy that we're, whilst the customer's on the phone, we're having to go to 3 different systems to get an answer. How do we consolidate that down? And so they've gone away, they've invested and helped us get that into a single screen. But that's completely transformed the time it takes us and the SLAs it takes us on that particular task. and they didn't know. They'd been doing this for years, but because it had just been trained from one person to the next, they'd never stopped and looked at the process. Our tool was able to see that actually we were having to go from multi-screen to multi-screen to be able to solve a problem. And so we changed the process to improve performance rather than beating the agents for more work. It's a culture thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. Pete, any thoughts from you on that area?
Yeah, I think we've had a few advantages in that from the moment our agents are onboarded, we train them, and we don't just train them on the products and the processes, etc., but we train them on the culture and on how to become a good remote worker, right? Including environment, setup, systems, whatnot. And that gives us that advantage because from the start, we have set that expectation. In training, they do learn that style, they practice it, they get used to it, right? For everyone else in the current situation where your agents have had to be at home, it's a completely different ballgame, of course. And so that's why it's a lot harder. We completely understand that. I think, as Craig said, and as everyone else has said, it's about having the mindset and the culture behind it that pushes for continuous improvement. Any tool can be used for good or for ill. It just depends on why and how you use it. And it's as simple as that. We want to make sure that we use it for coaching and improvement. As simple as that.
Thank you for the wisdom, oh wise hermit of your room. All right. Good thing that you mentioned training. Now, how do you find it being effective? Now, being a training provider or a consultant, what we do is we do a lot of training and we do a lot of work with our clients. Okay, now let me just frame this a little bit. Okay, now in our trainings, we've been running a lot of webinars. Okay, and we also do coachings. Now, we try to do a blended approach where it's a class and also we do a webinar, right? And to get them involved. Yeah. So maybe I can learn from you, Pete. What are some of the tools that you use, and what do you find really works very well in terms of your onboarding and also training the culture? What do you do? How do you do it?
So I work with I run the training and knowledge development teams at my current place and at my old place. And what we do is something which is quite different, I think, compared to the usual. We do a lot of e-learning and we do a lot of knowledge capture. So for example, I worked with PayPal. A lot of the knowledge is kept in the heads of the trainers and the senior agents. Even such an established company, after so long, it still is, right? And with many other companies, you're going to find that's very much the case, startups or established companies. And what we do is we have a specific methodology to extract that knowledge and then capture it in a reusable format so that it's replicable across the gamut of people who need to access that knowledge, whether it's user customers as well. And so what we do is we have a very, very flexible training program. E-learning is blended with some instructor-led, a lot of e-learning, and it has a flexible learning path whereas we work on not just retention of knowledge and application of retained knowledge, but real-world application examples as well with like test tickets or test calls, whatnot. And so it's broken up into a modularized format. So if you have issues retaining or applying knowledge, you'll then be directed to additional activities or additional modules related to that to help you then learn. And the idea is not that people pass with 100% or pass with 90%, but that they learn from the experience and then are able to apply and retain the knowledge. So I think that's the approach that a lot of training centers don't have the benefit of being able to put focus on. I don't want to say they don't do it. They just haven't been able to put that focus on it. We've redesigned it from the ground up because we had to. And so we did put focus on that, because what we found was if you just train agents or people on products and on the systems and on processes, they're going to retain 10, 20% of it, maybe 30% if you're lucky. And then they can't apply it, even for those cases that they know. They need a lot of guidance. But if you have something which allows them to practice it from the very beginning and which emphasizes the retention of the knowledge through activities and through interactivity within the training modules, you have a better chance of making those people successful when they go live. and they reach much better performance levels in a faster time. So,
and you've got to do it in bite-sized chunks, because
yes.
people can't focus on a video for 8 hours of the day and engage properly. You've got to be able to do it in 20 or 30-minute chunks that people can come in and out of as they need.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, in terms of training, right? And when you do it in 20-minute and 30-minute chunks, yeah, it really kills the flow, okay, and also the continuous engagement. So what we've been doing is we've been producing content and also running webinars which are so focused into specific areas and to roll them out, right? I think it's pretty consistent. So for those of you who are looking at remote training and how to communicate, this is what you need to do. Yeah, this is what you need to be looking at. All right. Okay. I see Daythree coming back in. I don't know if it's Raymond. All right. And Raymond, if that's you, kind of indicate in the chat. Yeah. And we would like to, actually, Lita, your client, has requested for you to share some of your practices. Yeah. Okay. All right. As to motivating the team. All right. Now, I'm going to go back to Jeremy. Now, Jeremy, if we look at everything that's happening here, actually, you know what, Jeremy, if you don't mind,
Yep.
should we go to the participants to see if they have any verbal questions?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah. All right. Shall we do
Sure.
that? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do is for whoever has a question, all right, kindly indicate or put your hand up. All right. And what I will do is I will unmute you. Yeah, I will unmute you. You can ask your question. If you want your video to be on, you can turn your video on yourself. Okay. All right. So for the next 10 seconds, anybody has any questions? Anybody has any questions? Okay. Go ahead. Kindly indicate. Oh, actually, Raymond has a question here. He just came back in. He messaged me privately. All right. I hope it's okay. Now, the question really goes around to all the panelists. Yeah. Okay. Are we going to have to rethink about this working from home? Okay. And where do you see this? It actually takes us to the end of the chat. Let's talk about that at the end of the chat, right? At the end of the webinar. All right. And I think we're almost approaching there. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. And where do you see us heading, yeah, as we move forward in this landscape? All right. Now, COVID-19 will not go away. Yeah, it will be around. Okay, which changes the entire lifestyle that we have. Social structures will change, lifestyles will change. Okay, and if you look at everything that's changed, what kind of changes do you foresee happening in the horizon? Yeah, and what do we need to do to prepare for that change? All right, because everything will be running on a whole different status quo. Yeah, Jeremy, you want to go ahead and roll us off and start us off here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. To me, I think most of the traditional clients, I would think so, like banks or insurance company, it's time for us to educate them to have both. A hybrid in terms of the solutions that we provide. Often or not, they would prefer an on-premise solution due to data privacy restriction. But now I think it's time for all of us to think of the hybrid model, which is on the cloud solution and a hybrid on an on-premise solution. So we can use this on-cloud solution as a work-from-home model, and also at the same time, this can act as a business continuity plan, BCP, or DCP, disaster recovery plan. Most of the clients, they would definitely ask the outsourcer like us, the outsource provider, what's your BCP? What is your DCP? What are you going to do if there's a downtime? So this is the right movement, I would say, the very important movement for all of us to work on a 100% model. So for some of the clients, we used to run maybe on a 20-30% model, but now it's like 100% working from home. So I would foresee that the next few years, the clients would, first thing they say, are you able to work from home? Okay, what will happen if there's a downtime or there's a pandemic? So this would be the next question in most of our clients' mind.
Right.
As opposed to the traditional thinking of, okay, I want everything to be in office, I want to visit your office, I want to make sure there's a clean environment, I want to have this and that, a nice pantry. So things are not going to be the same because we can't have nice pantry where you work from home. So if you understand, where am I coming from? Yeah, these are my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Thanks for that. Okay, Lita, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Just to add on to Jeremy, and I think this is more of a broader view. You see, because I'm coming from the client's point of view, okay? You see, your clients, your FI, your insurance, okay, actually have to comply to the regulation by Bank Negara Malaysia, okay? Mm-hmm. When they are strict with you as the BPO, it's because of that, okay? The government, all right? You see, technology-wise, we're there, okay? All of us, because we've been in the industry, we're exposed to what's out there, all right? What's happening in US, what's happening in Europe. I mean, like what Pete and Craig said, work from home is not something which is, you know, which is not common in overseas, but it's not common here in Malaysia. Yeah. It's because of the government support. Okay, and Raymond can attest to this. You know, there are some parts that I think my vendors are trying to be innovative. They come to me and say, hey, we want to do this, we want to do this. I'm on the ball with that. I know where they want to. I know it's for the best interest of the company. It's the best interest of the customers. It's the best interest for the agents, you know, the people that's working. However, I am also governed and tied to the regulators that I've got to please, that I've got to, you know, make sure that, hey, yes, data security is here. You know, like I saw one of the questions just now. One of the regulators' main concern is like, okay, an agent brings the laptop, brings the desktop, go home. What can you do? Okay, a guarantee that the agent, okay, you've got all your, you know, your desktop and your laptop all encrypted. Okay, you know what your agent's going to do, but you don't know if your agent's going to take a phone, take a picture of the data, start selling it off on the worldwide dark web. Okay, I see why the government is also concerned. You know, with the scams going on right now, it's horrific. All right, and they're trying to also protect the rakyat. All right, and that's why the rules exist. But I really think it's a bigger picture here. You want to move forward, like, hey, work from home, way of the world. Yeah, convince the government. Have the government to have, you know, financial institutions, insurance companies to have that trust so that we can have it for our staffs and also for our vendors.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Lita. I know it's a very steep slope, yeah, that we're on when we talk about the government and the support. I mean, we've been in the industry for so long. It's been 20 years for me, more than 20 over years, 25 years to be exact, right? And the government support, you know, is there? It's not there. It really depends on what's required. Now, in terms of what the government is doing, let me just share some information with you. All right. Everybody needs to get a permission to operate, right? Okay. If you're not essential services, okay, but even if you're essential services, you need to have a letter authorizing you to be in operations, right? Now, a lot of the contact centers had this issue. Okay. I was bombarded with calls to say, Ken, I'm dealing with international retail, right? But retail, okay, is required. Okay, we cannot close our online store because we need to get supplies and items to the people who are quarantined at home. But the Malaysian government, I wouldn't say Malaysian government, but the authorities did not allow them to operate. I think Jeremy had this same challenge. Yeah? Right, yes. Now, yeah, we're not gonna go into it, but to share some information with you, there is also abuse on the part of the businesses in Malaysia. Yes. Yesterday during the webinar, we had an SME webinar. We had some experts come in. We have a representative from the SME Association where we're the official learning provider for. Okay, and he is a representative with MITI. MITI is the local commercial government, commercial department. And when they announced that you need to have authorization, okay, to operate, yes, they received 10,000 requests, 10,000 applications for a permit to operate. Okay, and out of the 10,000, he didn't quote how many % were valid or invalid. But the fact is, all of a sudden, you're bombarded with 10,000 and there's nothing you can do. Why? Because businesses were all worried for themselves. Yeah. So it's really a big picture. For BNM to relax their rules and laws, I don't see that happening. Governance is tight. Maybe in the UK, I don't know. Craig, how does the UK government or the Monetary Board view the work from home or remote working, right, for FIs, yeah, or banks?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit more relaxed than it is in Malaysia, I believe. You know, I don't know the Asian side as well as Lolitta does. I think it's a little bit more relaxed, but there's still a lot around of concerns around the personal data side of things.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. All right, thank you for that. Yeah, okay. Craig, since you're on, yeah, how do you see the landscape changing, and what are some tips?
Yeah, so I think the landscape will change. I don't think we'll get back to business as usual from this. But I hope that's a good thing from a productivity perspective. You know, I truly believe that there's talent around the world that's inaccessible to today's call centers. You know, it's not in a commutable distance, you know, and to an office, and people are more productive from home. You know, not wanting to you know, overlook any of the issues that have been raised on this call today, because I think they are 100% valid, but people can be more productive from home if they're set up in the right way and they're good to go. So I think this is an opportunity for this industry to take a step forwards and look at how do we provide this working from home, working remotely, right, as a normal piece of activity for the industry. And I think that will drive greater productivity, greater engagement with employees, and allow inclusion of talent pools that aren't currently accessible.
All right. Okay. Thanks for that, Craig. Okay, Pete, how do you see the whole environment changing, and what advice do you have for our participants?
Well, I think I agree with everyone. The world has changed, and it's never going to go back to quite the way it was. But what I see out of this is a lot of companies have been forced to go remote right now, and once this experiment has ended, they're going to go back to the normal way of doing things. For some of them, purely because they didn't have the time or the opportunity to plan it out better. And so they don't see the benefits out of it. They don't get improved quality or improved productivity. In fact, they see drops, right? And there's a level of comfort as well. They're not able to see the performance of the staff or what the staff are doing. And it's not an easy thing to deal with. So I think I foresee that there are a lot of industries and a lot of companies which are going to try to go back. But I think the way forward is remote. There's no doubt about it. I think right now we're actually in a great position to have good engagement with monetary authorities like, you know, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and of course Bank Negara. Bank Negara is some really, really smart people I've dealt with before. And Bank Negara, funny enough, in the Asian region, maybe even in the world, it's one of the more progressive monetary regulatory authorities around. It's amazing to me. For example, with PayPal, they get around it through managing risk, right? The agents work at home with, you know, they're huge, more revenue than most banks, right? But how do they allow the agents to work at home with this information? They manage it through risk management. They look at what's available to the agent and what's the risk for that, and then try to mitigate those based on that. I think it's a great time to have engagements with these best practices from companies who can do it, and with the local monetary authorities, to then see what we can do to manage the risks, right? And it's not us, it's more the risk management people and the compliance people with Bank Negara working it out and seeing how we can make it work. But it is possible. Others can do it. Why not us, right? And so I think it's a great opportunity for the landscape to change, drive productivity, lower costs, improve quality overall.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can echo that. Yeah, I can echo what Peter is trying to say. So I even believe the next few years could be, I mean, working from home could be the norm, as opposed to working in an office. What more, looking at the Gen Y, I mean, the workforce is getting younger day by day. So everyone wants flexible working hours, work-life balance. So WFH or working from home will be the right solution to all this.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, and what we're going to do is we've got a question, actually a comment, a sharing. Raymond is on board. Raymond is on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and unmute him. All right, and Raymond can also share what are some of the things that he's doing to motivate the people and where he sees the industry going. Being the CCAM president, right? That's the Contact Center Association of Malaysia. All right. Okay, Raymond, go ahead. I'm unmuting you now. Hang on, Raymond. We can't hear you. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
So
Great.
sorry, I'm making this cameo appearance. I'm not supposed to be in this group.
Great beard.
So you know,
Always
Gandas.
yeah. But anyway, I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. You know, I think this whole thing, you know, has been very challenging for all of us, and including for me when I first heard of the MCO. You know, and I had a lot of members reaching out to me saying that, hey, what do we do? You know, we are part of essential services. So, you know, we played a very pivotal role. In fact, the morning after the MCO was announced, to try to get contact center to be defined as part of essential services. And that was a discussion that took place throughout the next day. In fact, it went on and on almost endlessly. And towards later at night, I think it was almost about 9 p.m., I got a call from the authorities saying that your request to have contact center as part of essential services was approved, and that you would have to wait for the official announcement later that night. But that announcement eventually came, I think 7:45 the next morning. So it was good. I think that, you know, we fought very hard for the fact that, you know, contact centers was going to be part of essential services. But I think since all of us here are in the industry, I think it's also the onus on us. You know, contact center industry and the processes that we run within the contact center space is very wide, right? You can say customer services is broad and general. Nobody has dissected what part of services is essential. So I think as business leaders, as people who are in the industry, I think the onus is on us to sort of self-impose this condition and look at the spirit in which why the MCO was put in place, right? You know, and sadly speaking, you know, I had another conversation with someone else later on that, you know, in a way I was regretting fighting for contact services to be part of essential services, because there were people who were taking advantage of the situation. Processes, lines of processes, which, you know, I couldn't put my finger in my heart or my hand in my heart to say that it was essential, but was being defined as essential. So I think, you know, at the end of the day, the onus is on us as business leaders to also to look. You know, at the end of the day, we want this to be over quick. And I think the sooner we all stay at home, the better it is, you know, and we don't want a lockdown. So we need to impose this self-discipline, and we need to ask the questions ourselves, whether the lines of businesses that we run, whether they are, will they cripple the economy as a result of us not going to work tomorrow? And some of this can, you know, Lita said it very clearly, you have no choice. You have to work from the office. I have given a list of over 500 names of my staff to the National Security Council and to the local police station, saying that they would be required to come to work. Touch wood, I've not had any problems. You know, of course, I have people taking 2 hours to come to work with the last 500 meters of their journey. So it's tough. I think we're all going through this whole, I think it's unprecedented. It's uncharted waters for us, for all of us. But I think, and at the end of the day, and the point that I'm trying to make is, while we have this exemption for the contact center industry, the onus is on us to actually, you know, look at ourselves, look at the lines of businesses and say, look, can this wait or can this not wait? Yep.
Fantastic. Yep. Thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Raymond. Okay, all right. And what we're going to do is we're going to end and close off. We're going to close off the session here, the webinar here. All right. And does anybody have any questions or anything you would like to address? No? Yeah, go ahead.
One last note from me. Technology is amazing. Okay. In this day and age, there's so many technology solutions for work at home mobility. You can even work on a mountaintop if you can get connection there, right? However, very, very, very important, don't forget about the human touch. Little things matter. Make them know that even in isolation, they're not alone, they matter.
Absolutely, thank you.
The help of your agents is also important.
Okay, all right. Okay, panelists, anything else before I wrap this whole thing up? No? Okay, thank you very much. All right, thank you all participants. Thank you all panelists. Yeah, Jeremy Lim from ENVO BPO. Okay, Lolitta Suffian from BigPay. All right, Craig Mills and also Peter Fernandez from Sirius, not Sirius Systems, Sirius. Okay, all right. And what I want to do is thank everybody for being here. And if you look at just a summary of what's been discussed, right? I think key here is technology. Is going to be there. We need to have the technology in place for remote agents. Okay. The other one would be would be the people. You know, at the end of the day, it goes back to the people, right? To the heart and soul of this, right? So technology is there, but we still need to be engaged with the people. It's a lot more difficult because everybody is so far away. Okay, and of course, you know, last but not least, get ready for change. Get ready to go remote. You may contact any of the panelists here through me. Just drop a note, and we would like some feedback. There will be another poll coming up shortly to get your feedback on the session. Yeah, do kindly fill out that poll. All right, and after that, we can go to our FB page, the ATCEN FB page, and you can make a comment under the post of for this webinar. Yeah, okay, and keep an eye open for ATCEN and our upcoming webinars. We're going to be doing 2 webinars a week. All right, and the next one will very much be managing the people from work. That's one of the topics we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at also managing stress when you're working from home. All right, and so what are we going to be looking at there? All right, so those are the things we're looking at. And thank you, panelists, for your time. Stay safe. Yeah, remember, stay at home. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm closing the recording now. Wait, hang on. The poll. All right, everybody, go ahead and answer the poll. All right, if you can help me answer the poll, I think the panelists would be interested also. Okay, so whatever participants are here, kindly answer the poll. Oh man, it hurts to see the excellent dropping, isn't it? Okay, all right. I think we're going to end the poll there. Okay, we're going to end the poll there. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. Keep an eye open on our future webinars. Yeah. To the panelists, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. And
most welcome.
All right, and take care. Take care, everyone. Be safe.
Okay, stay safe, stay healthy, everybody.
All right, Ken Ng from ATCEN signing out.